Is after factor by grouping.
Yeah, this is different.
The page right after factor by grouping is algebra tiles, and we're not going to work on those.
What? Oh, yeah.
Do I ever get my pencils back, or how,
Yeah,
I don't understand how you guys lose them every day.
No, I returned them. You see me return them.
Oh, I have no idea. I don't doubt you. I wasn't. I'm just always confused when people take pencils because they need them, but then they need them every day.
I just take them for this class. All my other classes are on Chromebook.
Really?
Most of them.
Oh. Okay, this is a great time to put your Chromebooks away as well. You guys will get time to do things here towards the end. Okay, before we get to actually factoring, we're going to go over kind of the skill you need for the factor. And that's what this page is. This page is only going to take us a couple minutes. But kind of thought it would be a good idea to practice it before we do the problems. Okay, here's how we're going to approach these. Some people are good at doing them in their head, others are terrible at it. And that's fine, right? Like as long as you approach it the way you need to. So the first one in the upper corner here says what two numbers multiply to 7 and add to 8. And I'm pretty sure most everybody in their head can figure out it's 7 and 1. And that's because this one, if you need to, you're going to write down the choices of multiplication to get 7. For this one, it's kind of worthless because there's only one pair. The only way to multiply to get 7 is 1 and 7. And if I were to add those two numbers together, I would get 8. Okay? So on this one, it's very easy to figure out 1 and 7. Second one. What pair of numbers multiply to negative 12 and add to 4? And again, some of you are pretty good at doing this in your head. I'm going to guess most of you need to write things down. Can you see the board at all? Or is it like all glare? You can always let me know that. I was just noticing standing by the side that I couldn't even see it. Is that okay? Okay, we are going to write down all the ways to multiply to negative 12. So, generally start with 1 because that always works. 1 and 12. Now, how do we multiply to make a negative number? Like what? One of the numbers has to be negative. Perfect. So that means I can have negative 1 and 12 or 1 and negative 12. So 1 and 12 is a pair, but we have two different versions of it. We can have 2 and 6. And so then we'll do the same thing. One of them has to be negative, and it could be either one. And then there's one more pair. If we go to 3, we've got 3 and 4. And negative 3, negative 4. And these are going to be all the ways to multiply to negative 12. Now, once you find the pairs, you're looking for the pair that will add up to positive 4. I don't know if you guys can do that in your head or not, probably. -2 and 6. So we're just gonna circle that pair, because that's kind of how we're gonna use it when we get to the problems. I wanna back up to the very first problem. I didn't write it up here at the time because we didn't need it. Now that we're also realizing that we have to deal with negative signs, does anybody know what else I could have put up here instead of +1 and +7?
Negative one and negative sign?
Yeah, they both could be negative. Like, it was kind of worthless for this first example because there was no negative numbers at all. But if both of the numbers negative, it'd be positive. And so kind of for this exercise, when we're doing it today, you're gonna have to kind of keep in mind all the possible ways. Now, if you can figure out shortcuts, go for it. Okay, what pair of numbers multiply to 10 and add to 32? So we got 1 and 10. Do I need to write down the negative ones? I don't, because the only way you're gonna be able to add to 32 is if they're both positive. So 1 and 10, we've got 2 and 5. 3 doesn't go into 10, 4 doesn't go into 10. And then once we get to 5, we're done because it's already up there. So for this one, what would we answer? None, yeah, correct. There are no pair of numbers. So that is a possibility. Why don't you guys see if you can do the fourth one on your own? Set it up by writing down the different ways to multiply to +9. Let's go to Macy. On vacation so long, we gotta get you back into the swing of school. What'd you get? Perfect. So I've got 1 and 9, -1, -9, 3 and 3, -3, -3. And the only way to make -10 is if both the numbers are negative. Perfect. Now, does the thing on the bottom look confusing to you or not? So I'm guessing and wondering if some of your middle school teachers might have used the X method. I can't remember what they call that. I don't think they call it the box method, but. So for some people, these are the exact same questions, but for some people, this is an easier way to picture it in their head. Gessler, you can't go to sleep in first hour. You haven't even taken your headphones out. You look like you're trying to go to sleep. Okay, Gessler, what is this box telling us? It doesn't have any words. What does that symbol mean? So it's saying multiply to 40 and add to -14. Perfect. So what should I write down next to the problem, like my scratch work? What did we write down above? Which one did we focus on? Yep, that is pretty much the entire problem, is the numbers. We focused on the multiply. All the problems on the top, we only did the multiply portion. So we're gonna write down the ways to multiply to 40. We've got, this one's gonna have a bunch, I believe. We've got 1 and 40, -1 and -40. To save some time, which ones do I not even need to write down? Like if you realize this at the beginning. So I've got the positive versions and the negative versions. Which ones don't I need to write down? What do I have to add to? Donna, are you trying to raise your hand? Oh, okay, that's okay. So they're trying to get to negative 14. So which ones should I not write down? The positive versions. If I add positive numbers, the answer's positive. So it can't be positive numbers. So I'm just gonna write down the negative ones, just to save time. Like, because when you're doing these, you don't want to take as long as possible. So -1, -40, -2, -20. 3 does not go into 40, 4 does. 5 does. 6 does not, 7 does not. Also, if you realize the correct combination, you can stop. You don't have to keep going. The correct combination was -4, -10.
What if I know, like, what if I'm writing it down right at the start and I know -1, -3, does it add to -50? Do I still have to write it down later?
Don't have to, no. No, this list is just for you to be, because some people have trouble doing it in their head. So 100%, if you want to just like only write the ones that you think might work, go for it. Try these last 3 before we get to the actual problems for today. Try the last, I think there's only 3 more. Yeah. Try the last 3. See if you can figure out those pairs, combinations, whatever you want to call them. Oh, there's that. Nice. That's very rare. Okay. That's just Jackie, what is the answer to that one? You didn't finish the first one? That tells me you didn't even start. Juliana, did you get that first one? -7 and -3. I don't know, did anybody else get that?
Yeah.
Good. Okay, now a little bit bigger number. Doreen, did you get this third one, the -60 and the +7? What'd you get?
1 and 6. 1 and 6.
I feel like we're missing something. These definitely add to 7. They definitely don't multiply to -60. So I'm gonna guess the numbers you wrote down were the ways to add to 7. What we wanna do is we wanna write down hard on it. Write down, there we go. We wanna write down the way to multiply. Let's see, so 1 and 60, 2 and 30, 3 and 20, 4 and 15, 5 and 12, 6 and 10, 7 does not go into 8, does not go into 9, does not. Okay, now what I didn't write down is I didn't write down the negative symbols, because I wanted to save space, I knew I wouldn't fit it. So one of these numbers has to be negative. Oh, Anakin, you want to back her up? -5 and +12. Anybody else get that? Nice. So -5 and +12 will add to be 7, but multiply to 60. By far, the hardest ones you're gonna find are, multiplying to the bigger numbers, because there's just too many choices. I don't know if I'll call the last one tricky, but did anybody get it? Taylor, what'd you get?
-1 and 7.
-1 and 7?
Yeah.
Oh, anybody else get that?
No, I got 1 and -7.
You got 1 and -7. That is not the same thing, whoever said that's the same thing.
Why you saying me?
It's okay, you're correct, I was just trying to make you question yourself. So, these are the ones that I find people make mistakes on the most, just because, like, the numbers are so close. It's like your head sometimes doesn't remember which pair to choose. Like, I guarantee somebody wrote down -1 and -6, because you accidentally did it backwards in your head. So, -1 and +7, they do multiply to -7, and if I were to add them, they'd be +6. So this is the correct pair. That's probably gonna be what you're gonna find the hardest part, is just like trying to keep things straight in your head. As we go forward, I don't mind which way you guys wanna write things down. If you find it easier to use this cross method, do that. If you find it easier to just like write things down, do that. Okay, the next page is where we're actually gonna do these problems. And we need to use this method to come up with answers. Now, there is some steps on the side, which is what we're gonna do. So, you don't have to write them down if you don't want, because they're already written down. If you don't understand them, then maybe I would write what makes sense to you. Okay. Isaac? What is the first thing it says you're supposed to do, and it was the first thing we did yesterday? Okay, so you check to see if all the things have something in common. This one they do. They all have a 6. So I am going to take a 6 out. Lamar, do you remember what we did yesterday when we took something in common out? Like, say, for this one, what are we going to do with the 6? Well, we could, but that would bring us back to what we started with. It's not wrong, it's just we don't want to. Does anybody, I'm not sure the best way to phrase this question, because I think I'll give away the answer. Does anybody remember what we're supposed to do with that 6? You do nothing, you ignore it, and then it's going to be in the final answer. So when we're done with this problem, the final answer will have a 6 in the front. Like, we literally do nothing with it. And for the rest of the problem, we only focus on the inside part. Okay. Now, here's kind of where there is a normal method to factoring these. And I think maybe some of your brothers and sisters or whoever, maybe even your parents, will teach you how to factor these differently. And I think if you're really good at factoring and these feel easy to you, you can do that other method. But I wanted to teach the same method for all of the problems, because I've found in Algebra 1 it's easier to remember one method for all of them, right? Like, even if that one method is slower. So what we're gonna do to start with, would you stop the whistling? We are gonna look to see what multiplies to 3 and adds to 4. I'm gonna guess everybody can do this pair in their head. Right, like what's the pair of numbers we're gonna use? 1 and 3. There is only one choice, 1 and 3. Once you figure out that pair, we're gonna change the 4 into a 1 and a 3. And I know it does say it over here, but the wording may screw you up. So once we figure out that correct pair, we're gonna change the middle number into the pair we figured out. This may seem weird at first, but it'll be super easy quick. Dominic, do you remember what to do immediately when we have 4 things and we're trying to factor it? It also says over here. Okay, do you remember how we start that? What we've done the last 3 days, what's the first step? Or, actually, I guess it's not first, but split it in the middle. So, factor by grouping, we're gonna split it in half. The left half, Alexis, what does the left half have in common? Perfect. Okay, so we take out an x. We'd be left with a single x, and we'd be left with a 1. Andy, how about the right half? 3, good. FYI, all of these problems, they're barely gonna have anything in common. It's gonna be far easier than yesterday's. So we have a 3 in common, and if we take that out, we'd have an x and we'd have a, do you remember what to put here? 1, we have to put a 1, don't leave it blank. Like if you have a 3 and you take out a 3, it leaves a 1. And then we have the same parentheses on both halves, which means we did it correct. We will write that one first. And then the other parentheses will be whatever was written in front of the parentheses. Which would be x and then positive 3. The very beginning of these problems is where you're gonna probably have to pause and think. I'm hoping we've done enough of these by now, but that is sort of automatic. That was my goal. And I wanted to do harder problems yesterday because I was hoping these would feel super easy today. Okay, we'll start another one fresh from the beginning. Because I know it'll start making I skipped a step. As soon as I saw the second problem, I realized I skipped a step. Step 2, it says A times C. Which I don't think, does anybody know what A and C are, by the way? That's what I was worried about with the directions. The first and the third number. Okay. Grace, what is step 1 on every single problem we're going to do for factoring? Okay, what do they have in common?
1.
Yeah, so nothing, right. 100%, they don't have to have something in common, we just look for it. So these have nothing in common, then we move on to the next step, which is what I forgot on the first problem. We have to multiply the first and the last number. 18, okay? Now what we're going to do is we're going to try to find the ways to multiply to 18. Would it help if I wrote a time symbol? Multiply to 18 and add to 9. I'm having a lot of trouble writing and talking and doing everything at once today. Okay, multiply to 18. So in our head, we're going to try to figure out how do we multiply to 18? 1 and 18, 2 and 9, 3 and 6, 4, no, 5, no, 6 is already up there. Jack, I don't think I've called on you yet. How come I didn't write any negative numbers down? Oops. Sebastian? How come I didn't write any negative numbers down?
Because it's positive.
Because we're trying to add up to positive 9, so there's no negative numbers involved in this at all. If this would have said add up to a negative number, then I would have just chosen all the negative numbers. Okay. Moving to Cohen. Gessler? Cohen? Do we have a correct pair?
Yes.
Oh,
6.
3 and 6. 3 and 6 multiply to 18 and add to 9. Okay, now I'm going to take my middle number and put those two in place of it. Absolutely, I am expecting this to take a little while to get these steps down. But once you have them down, it works for every problem. And I didn't want to rush it. That's why we've been going slow. We have 2 weeks to get this method down. We've got it. So 2x squared, and instead of writing 9, we are going to say plus 3x plus 6x. Okay. Can you guide me from here?
Let's switch the 2x and I put the 6 on the left and the 3x on the right.
Why does everybody always want to switch the stuff around? I mean, it's not wrong, it's just like extra work. So, you absolutely can switch them around. Can somebody in here tell me how to do it like this without switching them? Because I don't want to switch them, I'm lazy.
The first 2 have an X.
Yep, the first 2 have something in common, and that's it.
Yeah. And then the other 2 have a 3.
Good. Now, Beckett, it 100% would have worked when you switched them, you would have just had them backwards. Like the parentheses would have came up opposite direction. Okay, they both have the same parentheses, which means we did it correct. And then we write the information that was in the front of them. Yeah, go ahead. Say it again? Oh, this symbol? That was supposed to be times. I wanted to write times 18 and add to 9. Now, I'm pretty positive this topic you guys are definitely going to want to make a cheat sheet for by the time we get to the steps, right? And I would try to write these steps in your own words. Edelyn, let's move to this last one, which looks even harder. Well, it doesn't look harder, it looks a lot easier, but it's harder. What's the first thing we are supposed to try to do? Okay, do they? No, they have nothing in common. Okay, good. Reagan? Step 2 up there, what does it say to do? So that's multiply the outside numbers. So what do I get if I multiply the outside numbers? This one's kind of like so small that it feels like nothing. Okay, so I'm gonna multiply the 1 and the 4, and I will get 4. So I'm gonna try to find the factors that multiply to 4 and add to nothing. So on these other problems, we tried to add them to the middle number. This one doesn't have a middle number. So we want the pair that multiplies to 4 and adds to 0. Close. Oh, wait. My fault. They multiply to negative 4. So yeah, Gessler, you were saying it correct because I wrote the wrong info. We have a 1 and we have a negative 4. So there's not many ways to multiply to 4 anyway, so I know a lot of you in your head automatically figured out positive 2 and negative 2. Now, when we figured out the correct pair, what did we put them in place of? Over on those other two problems, what did we put them in place of? Sana, do you remember what we put the pair in place of on that? Perfect. We're gonna put it in place of the middle, which is nothing. So that means on our next step, it's going to say plus 2x minus 2x minus 4. And then that's actually okay because plus 2 minus 2 is nothing. Grace, have I called on you? Alan, did I call on you? I feel like I think I've used everybody up. Danielle? I didn't call on you, did I? Perfect. Where do I go from here? Okay, split it down the middle. Yep. What do I put on the right hand side for in common? We do a negative because that first one's negative. Okay. Now, my first thing I write down is the common parentheses. Second thing I write down is the info that was in front of them. You write nothing in front. If you want to put a 1, you can. I mean, it wouldn't be wrong. But yeah, so the only one so far that had something in common was the very first problem. And the only thing we do with that is we just make sure to write it at the end. I believe the next problem has one. Here's what I was hoping you guys could do. I wanted to give you 25 minutes, or however long we have left. 20, almost 20 minutes. There's not many problems left on this page, but I also don't think that you're going to fly through them. 100% feel free to work with each other to remember the steps. I will gladly help anybody out remembering the steps. I know you guys know how to do all the parts. It's just hard to remember what order to do things. But see if you can finish this page.